The American economy was built from the beaver. Seriously. When the Europeans couldn't profit fast enough, they used alcohol as a weapon to collapse the entire system. Before there was an American economy, there was a fur trade. And before Europeans hijacked it, indigenous nations were running one of the most sophisticated and sustainable trade networks the continent had ever seen. The Susquehannock Confederacy controlled the Susquehanna River Valley from New York to the Chesapeake Bay. The Iroquois Confederacy, the Haudenosaunee, had a political constitution so sophisticated that historians acknowledge it directly influenced the structure of the United States Constitution, the same document that was later used to strip them of their sovereignty. The French showed up first, and for about 100 years they actually integrated into the existing trade system. They built trading posts, learned languages, married into indigenous families, collected rent. It wasn't good, it was colonial, but it was functional. The indigenous nations were still running the show. Rational hunting, sustainable harvesting, conservation practices that kept the beaver population alive because these nations understood something the Europeans never did. If you take everything today, there's nothing tomorrow. Then the British decided they wanted in. And instead of competing fairly, they undercut the prices, offered to buy more furs faster at lower cost, which incentivized faster harvesting, more killing, less conservation. The beaver population started collapsing. And the French didn't care because as long as the rent kept coming in from their trading posts, the sustainability of the resource wasn't their problem. And then, when the resource started running out and their inter-confederacy tensions started rising, the French introduced alcohol into the trading posts, specifically to the young men. This wasn't a cultural exchange. This was a weapon. In these confederacies, the elders held everything. The conservation knowledge, the hunting rotations, the territorial agreements, the diplomatic frameworks. All of it lived in the elder-youth relationship. You sever that relationship, and you get the young men drunk enough that the elders' rules feel like restrictions instead of wisdom, and the entire transmission system collapses from the inside. The young men stopped listening. They raided. They overhunted. They made deals that undermined the Confederacy's collective interests. The Beaver Wars erupted. Desperate, increasingly violent competition for a resource that was disappearing faster than anyone could replace it. The men who had nothing left, no territory, no community structure, no economy, no elders to answer to. Some of them went to the water. This is likely where pirates actually started. No romantic outlaws, displaced men with nothing left to lose, raiding the same shipping networks that helped destroy their world. And a generation later, the British figured out these were useful people, started issuing privateer contracts, official permission to raid enemy ships under the British flag. Same people, different paperwork. Here's the part that rewrites everything you were taught about the Revolutionary War. The indigenous nations were largely allied with the British Crown, not because they loved Britain, but because the British Crown was the one restraining the colonists from expanding westward into their territory. The Royal Proclamation of 1763 literally prohibited colonial settlement west of the Appalachians. That was protecting indigenous land from the founding fathers. The Revolutionary War wasn't about freedom. It was about removing the one imperial power constraining the colonists' westward expansion. Once Britain was out, the indigenous nations lost their last external protector. France's parting gift for helping? They sold the colonists the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. Land they had no right to sell, to a government that immediately sent Lewis and Clark to figure out how to clear it. While all this was happening, while the American interior was being mapped for what came next, America stayed neutral during the Napoleonic Wars, not out of diplomatic principle, because we were busy with the occupation of a continent. Next, we talk about what Lewis and Clark were actually doing on that river, what Zebulon Pike was doing simultaneously, and what happened when two government contractors with weapons and explosives came home from their exploration and let nature do the rest. This full episode 2 is in my Substack library. I'm Ryan. This is First Light Archive, the hidden timeline, the buried continent, and I'll see you here for episode 3.